I'm here with Nick Zostautas, right? That's it. You described it as Tostados, but with a Z. And Nick, I've known Nick for years. He's been a good friend of mine. I have yet to. I always butcher his last name, anyways. But we were talking, and you're actually. It's Lithuanian, right?
That's right.
Lithuanian.
That's right, Lithuanian.
See, I was thinking, looking at you, you look like you came off the set of 300. You look like this Greek god. So, I mean, I was expecting it to be Greek, but it's Lithuanian. Do you have any?
I was the one in the back in 300, a little too doughy for airbrushing, so they put me in the back of the pack. So,
but you have a great coach voice, so you would yell and scream and have a good beard. So
that's right.
It works.
That's right. They just kind of blurred me in the background.
Nice. And man, Nick has been a part of winning championships all over the place. We're going to get into that real quick, and as we get a part of this, but he's the director of strength and conditioning at UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago. And there he's been a part of 25 Horizon League championships. In 2015, he got his jacket, the master strength and conditioning coach. And we have to, I will say, Nick, tell everybody that I tease you quite often about this jacket, and that's kind of what I was curious. I mean, do you wear it all the time? I mean, just in the.
I do. I wear it all the time. No, I wear it all the time. I make sure that the first thing I put on me when I get out of the shower is the jacket, and then my American flag Speedo. After that, and I strut around the house like the cock of the walk, and I notice a little glint in my wife's eye, going, "Man, I'm so proud of that guy." And it's one of those things where it's truly the crown jewel. Of the household over there. So no, I'm kidding. My wife can't stand my beard. That's the reason why I grow it. Yeah.
I mean, you got two daughters. You got a wife and two daughters. I mean, you are the testosterone in that house, man. You gotta bring it.
Well, that's it. I got a wife, two daughters, an American bulldog who's neutered. So there's no testosterone left in that house. So I gotta represent it every chance I get, every single chance I get. So
nice. Now, before, let's see, you've been at UIC for 10, 12 years now?
10 years, going on my 11th year, 2019.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy how fast it's gone.
Man, that's awesome. You couldn't tell from your office. Don't worry.
Right. So. It just looks like a stockpile of crap. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I actually had our volleyball coach came up to my assistant, Eric Guthrie, who works with volleyball, and says, you know what, can we not have recruits go in Nick's office? Because, it's just, and I'm like, well, yeah, my office looks like a friggin' high school gym teacher's office because we have no storage here. Whoever had the insight of building this horrible weight room that we have here is like, nope, they don't need storage. So yeah, it looked like a hoarder's office.
See, I thought about that. I need, my travels, I see different strength coaches' offices, and dude, you're in the majority because you've got bands here and there, you've got broken, dumbbells and bumpers in question, and all these different things, and straps and wraps and all that. I kind of want to do like a strength coach hoarders episode where we have interventions with. Oh, it's terrible with coaches, but
it's so bad. I'm truthfully embarrassed. But it's like what was that movie, Officer and a Gentleman? I got no place else to go. There's nowhere else to put this stuff, so it's kind of finds its way in here. So,
well, when you're a sales guy, it becomes your truck. There's times where you drive 6 hours to get to a meeting, and you're gonna drive 6 hours back. So I've just got snacks all over the front. Somebody's like, "Yeah, let's. I'll hop in with you." I'm like, I'll meet you there. You drive separate."
That's it. That's right. Yeah, it's it is what it is. It's you got to do the best you can with what you got. So this is what we're doing.
That's right. Now, before UIC, you were at Northwestern for 6 years. As a part of that, and I'll ask you about that briefly here, the different teams you worked with and different things you did. You had some awesome athletes you worked with and developed there. In 2001, I believe, was it 2001 you were at North Dakota, the championship?
That's right.
Okay.
So 2001 football season, I was at North Dakota. We won the Division II national championship for football. Amazing experience. Absolutely great experience there. So,
man, that was a good year for you because in 2001 you also were part of the Stanley Cup championship team of the Avalanche. You did some work there that year as well. So you've had
I
had a great run, especially in 01.
Yeah, 01 was a phenomenal year. I got to work for one of my mentors, one of my former strength coaches, Paul Goldberg, who was at the time the head strength coach of the Collegiate Avalanche, and he was gracious enough to allow me to come on and be an intern for the Avs in the 2001 season. And it was a all-star team of all-stars when it came to hockey at that time. Ray Bourque, Joe Sakic, Patrick Roy, Peter Forsberg, and I got to see that high level first and foremost out the gate of what it took to produce a championship team and the level of focus and intensity. I mean, it was hands down one of the best experiences of my life. It was phenomenal.
Now, let me ask you this. I mean, like you said, you mentioned those names, and even I myself, as a Missouri boy growing up, I think hockey's awesome. I didn't get exposed to it much, but I know those names, right? I know those are all-time greats. What was that dynamic like? I mean, you as an intern, and this, I think other people need to understand this too, is you as an intern, you're there as a young guy. You're fresh out of college. You go straight from Colorado State to there. You played football for 2 years. You did track for 4 years. So you were a part of that. What was it like going into that and knowing I'm working with these all-time greats? How did you get buy-in? Did you even try to get buy-in? What was the dynamic like working with those guys?
You know, it was truly amazing. And I think not just for the sheer fact that those guys were such high-level professionals, but just they were professionals. So when I came in and Paul Goldberg introduced me to the team, everybody just saw me as another part of the wheel that was trying to make them better.
Nice.
So there was never any, and I don't know if it's just hockey in itself. I mean, it was just such a down-to-earth feeling, a true, genuine, we're here to get work done. It was phenomenal. It was just great. I always like it. I always tell the story that I remember once we had practice, and then the boys had 3 days off, and we had a game, and then 3 days off was the next practice was then. The boys played the game, and then I see them getting out into a limo, like a bunch of them. I'm like, "Where are you guys headed?" They're like, "We're going to Vegas." No bags, no nothing. 3 days later, they came back in the same clothes they were wearing when they left, just all ragged and stuff, got on the ice and acted like they got 3 days off of good rest, good recovery and stuff. The ever perfect. It was just absolutely amazing how they would handle themselves.
Wow. That's when you know, like we talked earlier, that's when you know you have elite athletes where you can do things and get away with it that others can't. Like you and I talked about before, having to work and grind and do and practice. But I mean, now what people don't realize is you're a strength coach that can skate. You played hockey in high school.
Yeah, I played hockey in high school. Wasn't great at it, but absolutely loved the sport. One of those deals where whenever you had ice time, we got ice time. So we would go. There was a rough patch there where we'd practice before school. I'd go to school, and then I'd have football practice after school. So it was long days at times. I remember missing some track meets just because I was absolutely ground down and just going, man, we had a hockey game last night. We had practice this morning, and then we have a track meet, and it's just like you're a zombie towards the end of the day. But I absolutely loved it. I truly feel like you have a love for a sport when you love practicing it as much as you love playing it, and that's how I was with hockey.
Yeah. Now you and I have talked about it in the past, but I want you to tell a story again of you becoming because I guess my question is, how did this whole passion of strength come about? You said it. You told me earlier it was your high school coach that kind of instilled that. Because one thing I like to understand and talk about with coaches is we evidently got here. Either we were meatheads, and sometimes I feel like coaches forget that, right? They forget why they got into this. Why any of us, myself included, why we got into this industry is because we love it. But how did you become who you are, and how did you find this love and passion for strength?
Mm-hmm. Well, from a young age, I mean, I have a picture in my office of my dad and I doing push-ups next to each other, and I was 3 years old. I mean, it's just,
wow,
silly stuff back in the 80s, and I have it truly right next to where I have like my championship trophies that I was awarded from the teams that I work with. But it was one of those things where I was never the best athlete, but I always worked. And the reason what drew me towards the room is because regardless if I was a starter or riding the pine, which I majority of the time did, I could consistently see myself getting better in the weight room. I loved the challenge. I loved to compete. Every single rep to me was a competition. If I couldn't show my stuff out on the field or on the ice, I could definitely see myself getting better in here. And that really drew me into it. Not so much of the overall poundage, because in the grand scheme of things, us as coaches, we're not lifters anymore. It's about the kids.
Right.
And it's one of those things where when I could see a kid come in who, truthfully, I have some sports here where kids have never even been in the weight. Some of my soccer players are from their inner city of Chicago, and they've never seen a weight room. This has never been part of their thing, where they come in and we teach them how to do a squat and a clean with a broomstick, and then see them leaving and saying, hey, Nick, can I add another day for a squat workout and stuff? And especially in a sport that traditionally does not have this. I mean, football, this was just part of the deal. For those other sports, like, and I'm watching right now, my female tennis team is out there right now, and they just won another Horizon League championship regular season this past weekend. They're out there lifting. They're out there squatting. They're out there doing this stuff. They get the buy-in because they see it working on a daily basis. And I've had kids, and when I used to work that team, I worked women's tennis here for 3 years or so. I mean, it was one of those things, when they come up and say, I can feel myself being able to start and stop more efficiently, and I can make these cuts, and I feel like it's directly related to what we do in the room. That's why we're doing this. You know, not to beat the drum of, hey, when I was your age, I was, nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's about preparing these kids for and these student athletes for their sport. I mean, in truth, the numbers in squat don't matter. It's the discipline that they learn from here. It's working to a goal and then finally achieving that goal and superseding something where you never thought you could go. That's really what drew me to this room, and truly a lifelong deal of continuously competing against yourself to better yourself, then to help better your team. I mean, and that's really what it's about.
Now, when you were in high school, you had a big time weight gain, right? I mean, you said earlier you went from the white shoe size 14, 5'10". I mean, you had a big growth. What was that growth amount, and how did you make that happen?
Well, it's funny because I like to say, I tell the story that my mom used to tell me she could pick me out of the huddle by looking for the skinniest legs. And that really just it stuck me bad. So it was one of those things too. My father played a little bit of professional and semi-professional football back in the 70s. And he would always tell me I'd try and gain weight. And he's like, boy, you got to eat. Yeah. So I'd go to GNC and buy weight gainer 5,000, and I'd poop rainbows for a week, and I wouldn't eat. I'd just try and take this weight gainer. Then finally, about my junior year, I was like, all right, well, let's see what the old guy's got to say if it works. Well, then I started gaining. I mean, just to give you a rough deal, is my freshman year of high school, I wrestled 132 pounds, and I couldn't make weight.
No.
So I was under. Wow. I was under. My senior year, leaving senior year, I weighed 265 and I squatted 585.
Ooh.
So it was one of those things where not just my love for the weight room and the discipline that it brought, but just buying in. I remember after a track meet, I think it was my junior year, we had indoor throwing facility at my high school, and right behind there, it was kind of like an old stage, and there was a basketball gym. On the stage behind this partition was the weight room for one of the campuses. After we threw, I went in there and I started squatting, and my coach came in, he's like, what are you doing? And I truly remember, and it's no BS, I remember saying, Coach, I go, I am lifting now because somebody I have to compete against is training right now. And he looked at me dead in the eye. He said, I love that attitude, but I want to go home, so get the hell out of here. And it was like, all right, fine. But it was one of those things, again, this gave me something. This gave me, a reason to continue training because I saw all the results. I saw it as a young guy. You see yourself getting bigger. You see the numbers getting stronger. You start to compete against your friends, and you're going, man, that guy did this, I'm going to do this. And it's just that constant competition as you go along. And growing up in the 80s too, I mean, you're surrounded with He-Man and G.I. Joe guys. None of those guys were small. Watching Conan the Barbarian the first time, him pushing that wheel, it's like, man, I want to push that wheel. Let's go. So you get all fired up and it's just feeds into it of consistently being that guy, that big guy, that strong guy that everybody looks at and goes, holy cow, look at what he's doing. It's like, yeah, I want to be that guy. So
now, what's it like as a coach when you meet somebody like that? You said you've ridden the bench. That's where you spent most of your time. But you could go to the weight room. You could see that growth. What's that like now when you see athletes and you work with athletes that you see some of that same mentality that you had? You see that in them. What's that like? How do you foster that?
I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's not. I know it sounds extremely narcissistic, but it's one of those things where it's like I see a kid who maybe is lost in the fold, is here because a walk-on like I was, and then they slowly start to progress, and and as they do it, they're getting better. Then they start seeing field time. Then they start playing, and next thing you know, they're walking a little taller. They're having that self-confidence about themselves. To me, that is leaps and bounds ahead of anything else. I have an email saved that was sent to me in, I think, 2010 or so, when I had left Northwestern for 2 years. It was from a former tennis player of mine. And this kid, he was 6'4", maybe 165 pounds. I mean, just like, it's surprised that this kid doesn't fall down when he walks. And I vividly remember this kid was afraid to jump up to a 12-inch box. Like, legit, he could not do it. He'd do that kind of like half pump and stop and half pump and stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, Pete, you got this, man. Keep going. He finally did it, and he jumped up and he stood up there. And mind you, with these wiry, scrawny arms, and he did the double flex pose in the front. He's like, ugh. And he kept screaming, from the gated community in Naples, you don't mess with me. And just absolutely hilarious. Well, 2 years after I left, I received an email from this kid. And he's like, Nick, you might not remember me. I was, your tennis player. Of course I remember him. He goes, I just want you to know that because you believed in me, made me believe in myself. And you might find it hard to believe, but after I left Northwestern, I enlisted in the military, in the Marines. He goes, and because you started that fire inside me of belief, I just scored a perfect score on my PFT, on his fitness test. And he was like, I want to thank you. And for me, like, even to this day, I got goosebumps talking about it now. I well up a little bit, and I just going, that's what this whole thing is about. It's not about squatting huge weights. It's about realizing that these kids who don't have that belief in themselves, just loving them up and convincing them you can do this. You can absolutely do this. And then receiving an email like that. I mean, it's worth more than the most salary you could ever think of to me. I still hold on to that email. I still have it in my emails, because sometimes in this business, and like with any business, you question what you're doing. I go back and look, and it reaffirms why I truly do this.
And I got to tell everyone that's listening, in the time that I've known you, Nick, and that's what's great is about Nick, everybody, is you go to on campus with him, he is the most popular guy. If not on campus, he's definitely in the buildings he's at. Everyone wants to talk to Nick, whether it's the custodian, to the coaches, to administrative staff, to assistants, interns, whoever it is. Because, dude, you treat people like they're the stars. And that's what's cool, and that's what draws you to people. And I think that's how you are so successful at what you do, is that people want to work with you. They want to be trained by you. They want to do what you tell them to do, because you're a fun guy to be around, and you treat them with that respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, my philosophy, I'd say, in life in general, for interactions with people, is I like to make people feel like they're the most important person in the world. When I'm talking to them, I'm not looking over their shoulder to find somebody else to do that. I'm locked in on them. Again, I'm trying to love them up every single time. And some people love that. I mean, I'll see somebody and I can't, how many times people go, do you have to be so loud? It's like, oh, I'm not going to say I'm sorry, because I'm excited about life and I'm fired up to see it. I mean, what do you want me to say? But that's just me. I mean, I've told you that story. I've had an intern in here, and my wife stopped by, and I was saying something to somebody, and the intern and I was all fired up. My wife turns to the intern and says, he has no off switch. This is him all the time. And it's like exhausting for my wife, but it's just me. I walk in the house and then my kids hear a big, hey, and my 15-month-old who could barely speak just goes, Daddy! And then my 5-year-old runs up to me and she gives me a huge hug, and it's just like yell fest at my house. And my wife is just looking, going, oh my God, when does this end? And it doesn't. So it's just, you know what? I truly feel like, again, respecting people, respecting the time that they have, and truly being appreciative for everybody, because everybody who comes into your life has an effect on your life. I want that effect on everybody that I interact with life to be a positive one. So,
do you feel like, is that something we're losing? I don't want to bash the future generations by any means, but do you feel that there's an aspect of people forgetting that people are people, and like you said, you look over the shoulder and you're looking for someone else or a logo or something? I mean, what do you feel like we've kind of lost some of that?
I think everybody talks about, millennials and this and that. I just think it's truly reassessing what you want in life. Like I said, I treat people how I want to be treated. Now, with that being said, I can't force people to react to me the way that I react to them.
Right.
All I can do is control how I am, and control how I act, and control how I respond to different people, to different things in life. When I worked at Northwestern, I had the privilege of working for Coach Randy Walker, who's since passed away in 2006. And I remember Walks used to tell us, every morning when you wake up, you have a blank canvas. And you get to decide. You're the artist. You get to paint what kind of picture you want. You can't control what anybody else does, but you dictate how you start the day and how you finish the day, and the attitude that you bring every single day. And that's something that I think is somewhat lost with cell phones and social media and all this other things, and just forgetting that there are real people out there on the other side, as opposed to just, posting a quote or posting this or posting how I feel about this. I mean, people are going to react one way or the other to it. So for me, and you know me, Dan, I'm not a tech guy. I still call it the Facebook and all that stuff. And it's just like, it's I don't post things. I look on there when my wife posts pictures of our kids or something and all that stuff. My wife's like, you have to have one. Okay, whatever. I'll put it up there. I don't know. But it's interacting with people. I love it. I love meeting different people. I get random phone calls from I just got a phone call a couple weeks ago from an intern at a different school. His girlfriend was one of my former softball players, and he was like, she's like, he's having a real tough time in an internship. You got to talk to him. And I loved it. I talked to him for almost a half an hour, 45 minutes. Wow. And it was just one of those things where it's like, especially when it comes to like in the business, for somebody who's been in a while, dude, when I went through a long time ago, I was lucky enough to have mentors that didn't look over the shoulder at somebody better to talk to, or didn't sit there on their phone when they're talking to me. They put their time and effort into me. And in every single person that I meet, I want to do the same thing, because I was there. I was an intern who didn't know what to do. I was an intern who was, grasping at straws, trying to talk to as many people. And so many people were so great with me, I'd be doing a disservice and dishonoring those that did it to me if I didn't pass along that to the next generation.
Man, that's perfect stuff, man. Because I know if you all spend time with Nick, he's not going to be the one with his cell phone on his table expecting a text or having to answer every notification. You are locked in, engaged, and whatever I have to say is like the most important thing that you've heard for the last 2 days. It's like, holy cow, Nick is really engaged, and that's just who you are, man. So I appreciate that. And it's evident in your athletes. Yeah. 2012, I was looking, 2012, you had a Olympic wrestler, Herbert, and he was 2012. He was at your time at Northwestern, and from an article that they did on you, man, on you guys, this is what they said. Herbert said, needless to say, after Nick got through with me, I left college a 2-time national champion and ready to take on the world. It talks about the different things you guys used to do, the different strongman stuff, sandbag lifts, different training, and all the way down to, he says, he had me do these circuits one day where I swear I tore my triceps. I couldn't lift the phone to my ear for 2 days. What's it like working with wrestlers? I mean, you wrestled. I mean, you've worked with wrestlers. It's a different mentality, right? But
it truly is.
Left a lasting impact on this guy.
Those guys were absolutely phenomenal. I mean, like, I always go back and say I love every group that I work with, from tennis to football. I love them all. Wrestlers and softball are the two groups that legitimately, if I say, all right, if you run head first into this wall, it's going to make you better. By the time I finish the word wall, they're already 4 steps in going toward it. So they're great populations to work with. That wrestling at Northwestern was absolutely special, absolutely 100% special, in that they were so dedicated and focused on being champions. It was unbelievable. And Jake Herbert the kid was a stud from top to bottom, from attitude. I remember him tearing his knee up and having to sit a season, and then coming back and winning a national championship at two weights, and then obviously going on to the Olympics. And Jake was the kind of guy that came in over the summer and came back from home, and he was like, I feel like maxing on cleans today. I'm like, all right. And mind you, he wrestled his 2 weights he wrestled at with me were 74 and I think 84, right around there. But he walked around maybe under 200 pounds, walked up to the bar, cleaned 265, and was like, yeah, I'm good. And I just looked at him like, yeah, I'm good too. But it was one of those things where another kid we had who was a national champ heavyweight, Dustin Fox, and Foxy looked like Solomon Grundy from the Justice League comic book. I mean, hands like bananas. When he grabbed onto your forearm, his hands legitimately were like those little wraps that you wrap around your wrist that would just continuously curl around your arm, and you're going, I don't know how I escaped this. As a freshman, Fox got down. We were squat maxing, got down top of his thighs parallel with 500 pounds on his back. As I'm sitting on the ground watching depth, turns to me as calm as a cucumber and says, is that good? I go, yeah, that's pretty good. And he just stands up with it. I'm like, all right, you're done. We're good.
That works.
But that was good. Yeah, it's good. But it's just, I mean, the work ethic of those guys through the roof, and then the circuits he was talking about. I'm not a big circuit guy, but this was back, it was 2000, working with those guys, 2005-ish, 2000, right around 2005, 2007. We didn't have a great year. So I ended up designing, we did our normal lifts, and we did a lot of conjugate stuff with those guys because they were stuck in weight classes. So we did max effort. And then on our days before meets, we would do Olympic lifts, Olympic shrugs and stuff like that for speed. But after the season was done, I can't remember how many dual meets we lost in the Big Ten. So I coined a workout. I'd say this workout is called Minnesota, because now we get this opportunity back to outwork Minnesota. You know, if we lost to Iowa, this is Iowa's workout. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm not a big, CrossFit-y guy or something like that. But it gets the point across is that, hey, we lost the duel. Now it's time to go back and work through this and get some work in and almost recoup in our mind. We never get it back during the season, but now it's time to make up for maybe where our shortcomings were. So
yeah, man, you've worked. That's what's been great, man. Is just getting to know you, but also just diving into your career. The athletes you've worked with, especially now baseball at UIC, Curtis Granderson and others, you've done and worked with a lot of different folks and done great things. What's it been like transitioning? You said softball and wrestling your favorite. Now baseball, working a lot with baseball, man. What's the transition? What's the difference like there?
I'll tell you what. When I left Northwestern to come to here, people were like, "Man, don't you miss football?" And I was like, "I already have a football team. It's my baseball team."
Yeah.
And they kind of look at me and they're like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, dude, it doesn't matter the title of the team. It's how you instill the work that you want with these guys. I mean, like I said, I have a pitcher who pitched 87 fastballs 2 days ago. The guy squats over 500 pounds.
Wow.
It's not so much, and this is something in our industry. And I was listening to a podcast with my good friend Mike Silvernagel, who's at UMary, and he said it's one of those things where young strength coaches, and he put it great, go to chase a logo. I want to be a big SEC school guy. Dude, we got into this to help student athletes become better. And that's really what it's about. So the name doesn't matter, baseball, football, softball, you are trying to get them better. And when you see them achieve goals, that's what it's about. So when it comes to baseball for me here, I mean, I legitimately have to pull the reins back and say, because they love it so much, I'm like, boys, I love the fact that you want to do more and more and more, but this is what we need now.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about this. This is what we need now. This is important. And we had a mantra starting this past summer with my baseball team, all bake and no cook. And the guys didn't understand that. So here's the deal. When you're a baker, it's almost like chemistry. If you alter the recipe at all, the final outcome is not going to be the same. Now, when you cook and you're a chef, you can add a little spice here, a little spice there, and it's going to come out relatively the same. But if you're baking and you add just a quarter tablespoon of something else, it's not going to rise. It's not going to turn out the end that we want. So when we're doing a program, we need to be all bake and no cook. Everything that we need is included in this program. We don't need to go outside and do other stuff here or other stuff there. And, you know, it's all right here for you. Well, as we went through, we probably had the best summer we've ever had. You know, we right now, currently in the Horizon League, we're sitting on top of the Horizon League. We have 3 weeks left to go. The last couple weekends, I mean, we're putting up double-digit runs. And it's going, you know, it's not because of the weightlifting. It's because guys are buying into a methodology, buying into what we're trying to do with them, and really staying on focus and staying on task and boiling down to do your job and trust that the guy next to you is going to do his. You know, and that is what the importance, I think, of our room in here is, more so than lifting poundages and more so than saying, oh, I squat this and I clean this, you know, and I deadlift this. And those are great, but it's more that mentality that you take from here of, again, a group coming together to focus on a single goal. You're going to work your butt off because the guy next to you is doing the same. And that's what transcends out to the field or to the court of that trust element.
It's awesome, man. Now, I am going to close this here, guys, with Nick. Nick, I do want to say briefly, I mean, hammer throw, from hammering weight to Highland Games, rugby, racing. I know you like to hunt. Before I get to my final questions, the 3-rep max, what has been a motivation for you to stay? And now you're doing jiu-jitsu now, is that right?
Now I'm doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I'm hanging out, getting choked out by sweet guys in pajamas a couple days a week. So... Again, it's a new challenge. I mean, I love it, but honestly, my body is breaking down through the years of heavy lifting and just beating the hell out of it. Different sports, through rugby, through powerlifting, through, like you said, Highland Games, through throwing, through all the other stuff. It's like jiu-jitsu is a different challenge to me. It would really appeal to me for the sheer fact that you could see guys that in their 80s still doing jiu-jitsu. And it's almost like it's still that element of competition. It's the element of one-on-one, which is why I really like throwing. You can't blame it on anybody else. If you screw up, it's you. You know, there's no finger pointing in that. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'll go against guys that are I outweigh them by 40 pounds, and they're more technically skilled than I am, and I have to tap out because of it. Yeah. So it's like, man, and God, does that piss me off. But it really challenges me to learn more and to really grow as a competitor, and as I lightly use the term athlete that I am now, but as an athlete and sit there and say, man, I got to get better. And it drives me to keep going. And a lot of those matches in there when we go in the room and I can get by from my strength, but I know technically these other guys are better than me. And again, it's the driver of consistently trying to get myself better. And the sheer fact that I have 2 daughters, and sooner or later they're going to start dating, and I might have to choke somebody out. So,
man, that's what I was saying. You're not an athlete. You're a dadlete now. You're just
I'm a dad. I'm a dad. So focus on shooting, focus on jiu-jitsu, and still look physically imposing, even though if I can't do it. More tattoos, longer beard, and maybe put on a couple more pounds. So
how embarrassing would that be for your daughters? You're like, hey, it's nice to meet you, son. You want to date my daughter, but first let's wrestle. Let's go.
Well, that's just it. I mean, my wife is fully prepared for the day when my daughter comes home from high school with a boy, and I'm in the front yard with only my American flag Speedo on, cutting the grass with full tattoos out, and introducing this with my white trash muck boots on and American flag Speedo, and just saying, What's your name? What's your intention? Having all the guns laid out in the garage. So,
oh man, I want to see video of that when that happens.
Oh yeah, that one I'll be happy to post. I'll be happy to post that one.
All right, man. Before I let you go,
Instagram post.
Yeah, your first one. Before I let you go, buddy, I got my 3-rep max. These are 3 questions. These are fast and hard-hitting questions. Very, very intellectually in depth, I'm sure. But I want to know your thoughts. So, you're being attacked by a grizzly bear. First question. You're being attacked by a grizzly bear. You have to fight him off with either one of these 3 weapons. I need you to choose which one you would choose. A samurai sword, a .22 pistol, or a wooden spear. You only get one of them.
Ooh. I'd have to say the samurai sword, because if I lost, I could always commit and end it myself, because I've seen The Revenant one too many times.
Fair.
I'm not getting chewed up.
Yeah, I'm thinking the pistol wouldn't do much, but
no.
My son is a big time survivalist. He loves reading. My 12-year-old, he loves reading Survivor stuff, and he says a wooden spear because the bears fall on you to attack, and he says you actually prop the spear up and it'll fall on the spear. I'm like,
that's true. That's true.
I'm thinking the samurai sword too.
Very true. But samurai swords are awesome. Ninjas and samurais are pretty awesome. So if I got to go out, I want to go out like Wolverine, as opposed to a kebab.
All right, second question. You get a legendary liftoff. Say you're benching, right? I don't know. And you get a legendary liftoff. You only get to choose one. You can either have UIC, Paul Anderson, or Louis Cyr. Who do you choose?
Oh, that's a tough one. Geez. I'd have to say Paul Anderson.
Oh.
For the sheer fact that you know, you got to go America, man. Louis Cyr, he was from England, wasn't he?
Yes.
You've got to go American. Paul Anderson. Even though he's like 5'2", hey, listen, anybody who digs a hole in the ground and squats out of it, it's like that guy's pretty legit. So I'll take Paul Anderson.
I think Cyr was he was British or was he Canadian? Man,
I don't know, but he wasn't American, and I'll tell you what, we'll go American till I die.
We get butchered for that one. Anyways, all right, last question, right? Man. You have to wear one of these for the rest of your life. Do you wear knee sleeves every day? You can't take them off. You got to wear them the rest of your life. Knee sleeves, squat briefs, or wrist wraps?
Probably wrist wraps, I'd say. I'd probably say wrist wraps. And for the fact that I've never worn briefs, I have unfortunately put on a deadlift suit once, and it wasn't very becoming to the boys down below. Knee sleeves, I've worn them in the past and got some horrible zits on the back of my knees. So the wrist wraps, I had a reconstructive surgery on my wrist, so I figured sooner or later that would probably be a necessity on there. Then you could always, fruit them up, put some pretty sweet designs on there or something like that. So yeah, be the guy who's always prepared, always ready, and I don't know, maybe look like a cheerleading base guy who's always got his wrist wraps. I don't know, whatever.
So I was going to say, you can't hide the wrist wraps. You can at least hide the knee sleeves, but people are going to be like, your daughters will be like, why does your dad wear wrist wraps all the time?
Because I'm always prepared to get into something.
Awesome. Hey, buddy, man, I thank you so much for being on this with me, man. It's always a blast to talk with you and to hear your stories, man, and make me laugh, brother. You always make me laugh, and I appreciate you greatly. Thanks so much for being on.
Dan, thanks so much for the opportunity, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, take care.